I could make an excuse for why I missed these past 3 weeks. Does it really matter? I don't think so. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Actually Good Coffee podcast, the show where we talk about all things coffee related, all while I drink a cup of coffee. I'm going to give you the numbers for these past 3 weeks. For the last week of July, we sold 617 pounds of coffee, bringing the grand total to 749 pounds on average per week for July of 2024. If we're looking at 2023's numbers, we sold 681 pounds, bringing the average to 712 pounds per week. It's more average this year than last. If we're looking at the first 2 weeks of August for this year, let's do last year first. For 2023, we sold 700 pounds in the first week and 617 pounds in the second week. This year, we sold 645 first week, second week, 1,065 pounds. We did it. We got them. I knew this was going to come one day. I just didn't know when. It was a matter of time. I'm just going to move on because I don't want it to get to my head. This week, I want to talk about a similar topic to last week, which was the Regenerative Organic Certification. This was actually created in 2020, which is very recent considering that the tier system that it's based off of, as previously mentioned in last week's episode, if you haven't listened, go listen to now, but getting those bronze, silver, gold, depending on how much of your farm is actually considered to be regenerative organic certified. That tier system is based off of a 5-year timeline. So even if you first got this certification back in 2020, that first window of time actually hasn't passed yet for you to even get ranked. Pretty interesting how fairly recent this topic is and just how much traction it seems to be getting. So this article comes from Roast Magazine. It's a regenerative agriculture for a Brave New World, written by Mark Inman, who was one of the head traders at Covoya Coffee. Roast Magazine is a great newsletter. They put out a magazine about once a month, and they just have really interesting articles that go along with some of the topics that we talk about. So what's the main point of this certification? We've covered this before. I'm going to go over it again. The main point is to ensure soil health, but certification also encompasses the environment, the social impact, and the economic impact as well. In the 1960s, organic farming really became a movement. This is when that idea was first created, and it was made to mitigate climate change. But what's so interesting about regenerative farming is that it seems to actually reverse climate change. We're actually reading from Roast Magazine. Regenerative agriculture and the soil carbon solution asserts that global adoption of regenerative practices across both grasslands and arable acreage could sequester more than 100% of current anthropic emissions of CO2. It's a mouthful. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll make it very simple. There's about 37.5 gigatons of CO2 emissions per year. That's a lot. What they're finding out is that these regenerative methods of farming is not going to stop them, but it's actually going to overshadow. That's essentially what sequester means. It means to hide away. It's going to overshadow this damage that's going on around the world. Even with that going on, there could potentially be more good that happens along with this bad, which can reverse the effects of the industrial farming method that has been in play for about 100 years now. If you guys have ever seen the documentary Kiss the Ground, it's on Netflix. You can go watch it now. It goes into a bit more detail into this of old traditional industrial farming methods and why we've moved towards using synthetic fertilizers to ensure the crop health. But what comes of that is that they actually start to leak into the soil themselves. So in order to not use these pesticides that are really destroying the ecosystems within the soil, what they're trying to do is take a completely different approach altogether. Mark Inman uses the electric vehicle example. So that's been a very popular topic as of recently, obviously in part due to the large success of Tesla and just electric vehicles in general. But even with this focus on transportation choices, it may surprise you to learn that agriculture contributes almost 5 times the amount of greenhouse gas emissions as transportation. I think that brings a whole new meeting to the way that you buy your groceries. Although you might be spending a couple bucks more, you're actually doing a lot more good than you think by making these purchases. Even more than you could be in proportion to the amount you spend on your car. The Regenerative Organic Alliance was founded actually in 2018, soon after they established the Regenerative Organic certification. Dr. Bronner's and Patagonia were the two brands that really led the charge on promoting this gold standard for agriculture. It was designed to heal a broken system, repair a damaged planet, and empower farmers to create a better future. How does it empower farmers to create a better future? Well, through finances, of course. How else are you going to empower these people? The most criticism that this certification gets is obviously that it adds another level of bureaucracy that's being pushed on these already burdened producers. And at a price point of about $350 to $1,000 up front in order to get this certification, that could actually be a high cost for some of these farmers, especially with the recurring subscription of about $250 to $500 per year. But in getting this certification, you're actually getting a much higher return on your investment. The first way is from water use. The carbon-rich soil better holds moisture and improves farm workers' safety through an elimination of handling these agrochemicals and investment in local business, and it better sustains stressed farming communities. Regenerative farming also creates jobs because you're not relying on these synthetic fertilizers and these large industrial ways of producing these crops. You now need more workers in order to work these farms and tend to them in a more organic way. These ROC farmers can also sell carbon credits into carbon markets. I don't know what that means, but what this article is telling me is that this would allow producers to diversify their income in ways that have never been seen before, as regenerative practices can sequester 30 to 40 tons of carbon per hectare per year, offering additional income potential between $900 to $1,200 per hectare annually. A hectare is about 2.5 acres of farmland. Even if you are some of the smallest producers, you have at least a hectare of land. So again, this is a relatively new topic that may come to what seems to be a intimidating bar to entry, but I do believe that this is something that can really change the industry as a whole and have a much more positive effect on in the future. I'm not a farmer. It's easy for me to say these things. Only time will tell to see if this method really becomes adopted at a much more broader scale. I do believe that it will. I'm very confident that it does, which is why with Made in Coffee, we're definitely going to be heading in that direction of looking for farms that are ROC certified. There's already farms from Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, Colombia. We're working with a couple importing companies to see if we can get dibs on these coffees firsthand so that we can provide this product to our customers, because we believe that in doing so, we're also providing a higher quality product that our customers will choose over the traditionally farmed coffee standards. Again, only time will tell. This is just my belief. You don't have to believe me. You can go out and figure this out for yourself. Go to the grocery stores, see what kind of certifications you find. There are going to be multiple. This certification is looking to encompass all of those all in one, so that whole process of finding your coffee is a lot simpler. And instead of looking to have a preference and certification, you now have one that covers the entire landscape of coffee farming. Thank you guys for listening. I really do appreciate you taking the time to do so, and I will talk to you again very soon.